Thanks everyone for tuning in. I've got Eric Banks on the horn. Eric, I just pulled this from your website.
Uh-oh.
You as a composer, conductor, translator, vocalist, linguist, and ethnomusicologist. I know Eric as the director of Esoterics, a Seattle-based choral group that performs a lot of choral contemporary music, and I have had the privilege of recording him and his group many times. So I think so. That's how I know you. Do you want to add anything else to that, Eric? I know you do. You do tons of stuff.
No. I mean, I'm Brazilian right now.
Yeah. Where are you? Tell everyone where you are.
I'm in beautiful Sao Paulo, Brazil. I could turn this around and show you where I am. Okay. So that's where I am. Did my camera just die? Look at that. What did I do?
I don't know. Did you break it?
I don't know. What did I do? How could I possibly have broken my camera?
I don't know.
That's craziness.
Why don't you try refreshing the Be Live thing?
Reload site. That's craziness. I'll do.
Eric has temporarily left the building, but he will be joining again soon, hopefully. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. I promised Eric will be back soon. He was showing us his digs, which look pretty sick. See all those buildings? Oh, there he is. Okay, showing stream. Are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I all I did is turn my laptop around. I mean, how temperamental is that?
That's hilarious. Eric, what are you doing in Brazil?
I am waiting. I'm actually enjoying my time in Brazil as I wait to come back to the States. I came to Brazil for Carnival and to do some research also in the Amazon. I'm running a piece based on endangered plants that heal, that are turned into medicine to heal. And I did 2 different trips to the Amazon, one in January and one in March. And I've been to Brazil a lot in the last year, but I was in Brazil. I got to Brazil the day after Christmas, and I was here until February 8th. And then I went home for 11 days and got an invitation to go to Carnival and to do the second leg of my research trip in Amazon, which is out of the city called Manaus. So I went to Manaus at the beginning of March a second time and did a bunch more research. And then that was actually the same weekend that COVID outbreak happened in Seattle. So I then went from Manaus to, I think it was 5 days in Brasilia, and I was supposed to fly home on March 13th, but I was told, no, you should not fly home because everything in Seattle was kind of going haywire, if you remember, because you were there. And I was blissfully ignorant to it all because I was in the Amazon and then I was in Brasilia. Like I wasn't in tune with what was going on in the States. I was supposed to fly home via New York City and then go upstate New York to visit my parents and celebrate my mom's 75th birthday. And I was told, please do not, my husband told me, do not come to the US right now. Do not get on a plane. And so I didn't. I stayed here. And my flights were then canceled. My flights in April were canceled. My flights in May were canceled. And I'm here probably until July or August when everything blows over. But I have a really great apartment that I'm renting month to month. It's actually quite cheap to live here. The dollar is very strong. And food is 1/5 of the cost in the States. So I'm fine. I'm writing, I'm working, and kind of get the esoterics to do stuff while I'm here. So yeah.
So
that's why I came here. It's not what I ended up doing here.
right. So Eric, what most interests me about you is how you've made a livelihood as a composer and as a conductor, sort of on the front lines of, I don't know if there's a better word, I call contemporary choral music, which is, a style of it that a lot of people don't want to touch, and some of that's because it's very hard, but there are other reasons maybe for that, and so I'm quite impressed by your ability to create a livelihood on this kind of unique area in choral music, and I'm wondering if you could talk about how you got into that spot as a composer, and maybe we'll talk about your composer life first.
Yeah, let's do them separately because I'm playing with my hair because I'm not used to the. It's not mirroring. You have to look in the mirror to fix my hair. It's so vain. Okay, so the Esoterics were founded out of my recital chorus as I finished my master's and doctoral degrees at UW. In general, at that time, so this is 28 years ago, 1992. I was really bored with most of the choral music that I was in and that I had heard, and I'm my undergrad degree at Yale, and I had really good training there. But I still felt that choral music was very much within the Jesus box. And by that, I mean, most concerts were sacred music, and it was an aberration to actually have a show or a program that was all secular, and that all the secular music had to do with the beauty of nature. And the themes were really, really closed in choral music, and that choral music audiences were sleepy, and that choral music singers were not all that inspired or were kind of lukewarm at best. And I was super bored with choral music, and I kept thinking, choral music needs to do something else or it's going to lose its audience. So I was inspired by that idea to create programs that were more thematic and that looked at themes that were more poetic rather than just like, this is pretty music. And this is long before, actually in the 90s, this is long before pretty music was in vogue. I mean, people were still doing programs with modernism. They were still doing programs with minimalism, and not the holy minimalists, right? Not Goreski and Parrott and Tavener, but or before then. So I was much more interested in music that challenged me as a musician and that challenged my audience in terms of poetry and in terms of interpreting text. So, and I also really love languages, so I really wanted to take the prism of a concert theme and throw it into as many languages as I could find. So I had studied a lot of languages in college and in graduate school, and really wanted to broaden the scope of what was performable in a concert. And that's where I loved speaking different languages, and I love translation of different languages. And that's been part of my composition, but it's another topic. So that's really how the Esoterics was born. For me, the word esoteric means something that's within a small community or within a closed circle. And if the group is successful, it subverts that idea. So it includes the audience and everyone within the circle, so that it's not like a secret understanding, or like a secret handshake, but it's actually something that embraces everybody. How's that?
That's great.
Okay. I've been practicing that speech for a long time.
I bet you have. So as a composer, you...
Oh, wait, can I tell a story? Can I tell a quick story? So we once did a concert at Bellingham, and this poor church lady refused to come to our concert because she didn't know what the word esoterics meant. Do you know the story? She thought esoteric meant erotic.
Oh,
Like she confused the two words because they both start with E and end with ick. So so she like boycotted the concert and made a big deal out of it at the parish. It was, I think, of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Bellingham, which is
wow.
a beautiful place to sing. But this woman like freaked out. She's like, these people can't come to my church. So anyway, so know your word definitions, people.
So as a composer, you go around writing pieces for people all around the world.
Yeah.
How did you get into that life?
How?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's
So-
so many composers out there. Just let me throw. I'm constantly being approached with composer submissions, and there are just so many people writing stuff and trying to make a living doing it. I'm sure they want to know how you've done it.
Well, I mean, it's so annoying.
No, you have to answer.
So, I mean, so what I would say is, first of all, I'm not that successful. There are composers that are way more successful than me. But I feel that my success as a composer is maybe 10 years later than my success as a conductor.
Uh-huh.
So I founded the Esoterics in 92. I started writing in about 2000, 2001. And so the careers are really different. The only kind of overlay is that I had a fantastic test kitchen. So I could write something and the Esoterics would perform it and I could rehearse it. And I didn't really make a lot of alterations to pieces as they were sung because I kind of know enough about the voice to write what I want. And I'm also like, I bitch enough at the singers that they'll do what I want them to, even if it's hard. So I mean, I get that when I bring a piece somewhere else, sometimes people are like, oh, this is really hard. I'm like, why did you hire me then? Like we're supposed to be pushing what the voice can do. Right. And I'm not talking about extended vocal techniques. I'm just talking about like, oh, something's rangy, right? Something's a little low or a little high. So I will say that about my career as a composer, I pretty much follow the same thing as I do as a programmer for contemporary choral concerts, right? I choose topics to write about that are not the flowers in the garden. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like that aren't about Jesus, that aren't about like that. I mean, one more setting of Ave Maria. Do we really need one more Ave Maria in the world? Do we?
Yeah.
Do we not have enough? Like, and a like as a programmer, as a lead person in a choral competition, like a choral composition competition. Esoterics has this Polyphonos competition every year. Like, I am looking for composers to give voice to, and those composers have to have a signature. They have to have an opinion. They have to be bringing something to the tradition that's not already there. So if you're submitting scores to me that are the same old texts, like really we need one more setting of Whitman, really? Mm-hmm. One more, just one more. What are you going to do with that? That's different, people. Like, I mean, let's do something that's more contemporary. Let's do something that speaks to the zeitgeist, right? That speaks to where we are now, what our society is going through now. So, and it doesn't have to be current events. It you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be biographical. It just needs to be something that's relevant. So I'm very much looking for voices that are creative. I'm very much looking for voices that are relevant. And I do that when I choose text too. I don't have any different standards for my own music than when I'm looking at composers in a competition. Most of the time now I'm able to write pieces, someone will commission me because and they'll say, what's your idea? They won't tell me what to write. They'll ask me what I want to write. That's an amazing situation to be in. But I wouldn't
know if the test kitchen is like a peanut gallery.
No.
Penny Kramer?
Peanut gallery. No, I mean, I think the test kitchen is like it's a place for me to hear whether something's successful or not. And the comments, the peanut gallery would be the comments from the singers. I obviously take the comments and I hear them, but I don't necessarily use them all the time. because I'm after an effect, you know, and if singers, you know, a bunch of singers complaining about how hard something is, isn't going to influence an effect.
Yeah.
This is not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've pulled pieces because they're bad. I mean, I think all composers have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've altered them. I've made like serious revisions to a few pieces. But I mean, for the most part, it's tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, I don't know. Also, I think a peanut gallery is a racist comment. You know, it's based in heavy racism. Yeah. So I guess it has to do with African Americans sitting in a section of a theater and they eat peanuts.
Is that really true?
Yeah, I think it actually comes from a racist origin.
You're making a weird joke.
No. But I mean, you can go. Someone go and look that up. Etymology.com. Go. I'm busy. Petty Kramer, you look that up and you tell us.
So Eric, I didn't know that the Esoterics came first, and then you composed shortly after.
Oh yeah. So the thing that really got me interested in composition was the Fulbright. So when I started the group in 92, and then 97, 98, I went to Sweden for a year and I did a Fulbright there. I studied in Stockholm and I sang with all these different choirs and, you know, studied with Eric Erickson, did all stuff. And while I was doing that, I was kind of reflecting on the last few years of the Esoterics, or the first 5 years that it starts. And I thought, oh, you know, we commissioned a bunch of music and some of it was good and some of it wasn't great. And in those moments where we were doing pieces that I really didn't think were all that good, I thought, oh, I could write something better than this.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I told myself, no, you're not a composer. You arranged a lot of a cappella stuff in college and you know your way around the chorus as an orchestra. But you should really hire composers and pay composers for their work. And eventually, I became really fascinated with this idea of linguistics and music, like a kind of serialism that uses vowels and consonant sounds and attaching them to pitch or rhythm in music. And it was something that I had never seen before in music. And so I started playing around with that idea. And I did it in lots of different languages. I started with Latin and Italian because they have fewer vowels. And then I was in Sweden, so I played around with some Swedish poetry as well. And these are experiments. These were like, again, tests that I never really published. And then it started turning into actual composition work. So it was just something I played around with that during that year of fellowship or the fellowship, and it kind of blossomed into something. Around the year 2000, I started writing in earnest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Do you write mostly for choir?
Yes, although more and more I'm writing for instruments. So the most recent commission that I'm finishing now is for choir and Pierrot ensemble. And that's for a group called Ember that's in Manhattan. And it was supposed to be premiered in the middle of this month, but it's not.
Damn you, COVID.
No, it's fine. I wasn't done with it anyway.
Do you like writing music?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I go back and forth between it being my favorite thing and directing rehearsal being my favorite thing. I really love rehearsal. I think it's super fun. But it just depends on who's in the choir. Like sometimes when like Penny Kramer is there, I have a really hard time with her.
I know this is a weird question, but do you like your own stuff? Like at the end, do you go, God, I love this damn piece I just wrote?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, yeah. So, often I get really surprised. So when something is like straight up a cappella, like a octavo, it is, oh, good. Keep looking, Penny. You're going to find more. There's stuff in there about racism. I know it. So, yeah. So I love that she's chatting. So when it's straight up a cappella, I can kind of hear what it's going to sound like beforehand. But when it's a bigger group, it's really harder to imagine. And it's then that I get like these incredible experiences in live performance. So there are a couple of recent pieces that I've written where I'm just like in the performance, I'm like in tears because it's so good and because it surprised me. There's a piece I wrote for the Yale Glee Club Alumni Association that was performed. It's a piece called Hold, and it was written for like a reunion. So it was an emotional thing for me because I sang at Yale, and it was for the Alumni Association of the chorus that I sang in all the way to college. But it was like 600 people at this concert, and there were 3 choirs, and it was in Woolsey Hall, which is where the big Yale performances are. And it was a sound that I could never have imagined. The text was also super emotional. I worked with a poet who's a good friend of mine. Octavia was there studying, and she had just gotten to Yale. The text, so like a protege of mine had actually gone in my footsteps to a college that so it was emotional for that reason too. And then the text itself was about staggered breathing as a metaphor for a society. And boy, is that relevant right now when all we're doing is wearing masks when we're trying to protect each other. So this idea, the poet that I worked with, Anna Meek, was a year behind me, but we sang together all the way through college. And she wrote this gorgeous poem about how stagger breathing can be a metaphor for society, how we breathe when other people need to breathe, and vice versa. So we support each other. But this piece was for piano and for 3 choirs, and the choirs were huge. And I didn't sing, I sat in the middle of the hall. In the hall, if you know, it has like 3 tiers. It's this gigantic hall. And I just remember being there with my family because they could be there and experience the concert. And it was just like the circumstances made it overwhelmingly emotional for me. So there are pieces like that, there are experiences like that where there's no way to predict how emotional you'll be.
Yeah.
I choose text that speaks to me on an emotional level. And if it doesn't speak to the person I'm writing for, I sit down with them and explain to them why it's emotional. Like, and I do that with the audience too. I almost always require that I talk to the audience to give them context before a piece is performed.
When people come to you with commissions, you might have answered this already earlier, but do they come with you, have text in mind for you, or do they invite you to go find some text?
Not recently. The most recent, I would say 5 years, I haven't set any texts that someone else has made me set. Like, I often won't take a commission if that's the idea. Yeah. There is a choir in France where the director was interested in me setting a poem that he wrote. But that commission's been postponed because of COVID, and I actually think the commission is going to revise. And then there's another in Paris that I did set. One of my most recent pieces is a drinking song, and the conductor is a really good friend of mine, and he asked me to set texts by his brother. And there were 5 or 6 simultaneous poems about getting like shit-faced drunk. And I was like, this is really fun. And I'd never written anything long in French, so I really wanted to do it when I read the poems. And these are friends of mine, so of course I want to do it because they want me to do it. But it was definitely a predetermined text that I had never seen. But that's the only one I could really remember.
But a PSA for everyone who is even thinking about having you set a text: don't come to Eric with some Ave Maria setting.
No. I mean, no, guys. Jesus is great, but come on.
So, Eric, when you start on a commission, I'm just curious, do you already have ideas kind of stored away that you pull from, or do you go through a process where you got to come up with some new stuff?
I'm addicted to audiobooks. So the most recent commissions that I've done are texts that I have read or listened to that I really, really love. I wrote a piece that was premiered last year that sets a text by Umberto Eco from the book Baudolino, which is a book I love. And it's a text about Hypatia, who was like queen of the Amazons, and it's how she views religion. It's a text about basically God is beyond human description, and that we are very feeble in trying to describe what God is. So I like, this is a text I really loved, and I was waiting for someone to kind of ask me to write something. And Gary Graydon, who's an American that he's actually a Swede now, but he lived in Stockholm, and he's an old friend of mine, and he asked me to write something, and I had this text in mind. They were going on tour to Italy. It's an Umberto Eco text in Italian, so it was an easy sell because they were going to sing in Italian in Italy. But I kind of have a list of things that I really would love to set, and when the right person comes to me, I do it. But I've also approached conductors and said, hey, I have a really amazing idea, and I think that your group could do this. And they've come back with money for me when I do that too. So it works both ways.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So do you have some favorite composers you're listening that you like right now?
I listen to pop music all the time. Right.
Nice. Just to
I am telling you, I love Dua Lipa. I'm listening to her all the time right now. And I'm writing an a cappella arrangement for Esoterics to do as a virtual choir video of the Dua Lipa song. There are just certain bands, and I just listen to pop music right now. And that's only in the last year that I've started doing that. In general, when people have asked me this question in the past, I say I don't listen to music at all. I just don't like it.
So. I just want to let you know that Penny Kramer is just not letting us go.
Good. That's fine.
She's saying it's not racist.
Okay. Then, I mean, my source is weird, but I mean, Penny, I mean, you're right next to racism in that whole thing about social class. But that's fine. You'll find it. Keep looking.
I like Penny. She's
I love Penny. She's a total scholar.
Diligence. She's
gonna hunt it down. She's gonna find it.
Yeah, that's great. So Eric, let's talk about esoterics a little bit. How you do some of the hardest stuff I've ever heard for choir.
Okay. Thanks.
And what's the rehearsal process for that like?
Well, nothing right now. Wishful thinking is my rehearsal process right now. So it's changed over the years. We used to, for many, many years, we were only twice a week. Everyone came twice a week, 6 hours a week. When you joined the Esoterics, you committed to twice a week rehearsal. And that was the go-to for like 15 or 17 years. I'm trying to think how many years. It's a long time. And then say 20 years. And then things really changed, I think, in 2015. Yeah, in 2015. So it ended up that I'm trying to think. Oh, no. In 2013, at our 20th anniversary season, I had a lot more singers and that I wanted to include because it's an anniversary year, and I wanted kind of a couple of y'all come concerts. And to do that, I ended up dividing the group into smaller ensembles, and each ensemble rehearsed a day a week. So no one learned the entire concert, but people learned parts of the concert. And then you have a big finish with 60-something singers at the end. So that was nice for a year. And then I got a lot of feedback from the singers that I don't want to sit through a concert, I want to sing a concert. And other singers were like, oh, I can only do once a week rehearsal. So, they're bitching from both sides, right? People that want to do only once a week, and people that don't want to sit through a concert and listen to a bunch of people singing. They want to sing. So, and I, how do you balance that? It's really fun. So, so I eventually turned it into, back into twice a week. But I also started getting a lot of, I don't want to call them problem singers. I will say that they were singers with work schedules that made it really impossible for them to have a predictable schedule.
Yeah.
So So I decided to double up my rehearsals so that those singers could take part. And so I divided the group into a scheme or schedule that's like Sunday, Tuesday for one ensemble and Monday, Wednesday for the other ensemble. And if someone had to miss a rehearsal, they could make it up by either swapping with somebody else in the opposite rehearsal or coming to, scheduling it so that they were getting the same numbers of hours of rehearsals as everybody else. So, and that's currently where we are. There's a Monday, Wednesday group and a Sunday, Tuesday group, and they rehearse separately. Some of the music is different between the two ensembles, but most of it's the same. So when we come together, there's this sigh of relief because people can stagger breathe more, they can phrase more as a section, and it actually, I love it. I love being able to hear a small ensemble rehearse. Like if it's only 12 or 16 singers, you get to hear every single singer and how they're contributing to the ensemble. And then when they come together, there's just a lot more support. So they actually sing better because they're in a more supportive, like there are more singers singing at the same time. So that's kind of where the scheme is right now, or the schedule is right now.
And how many rehearsals would you say you have before a concert?
Last year was my sabbatical, and we did 5 projects, and each project was 5 weeks long. Mm-hmm. So for a couple.
Oh no. Where did you go, Eric? Eric.
Yeah. Did I hit something?
No, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're good now.
How about now?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So what was I saying? Something about, what did you ask me? Singers, schedule.
You have talking about sabbatical. You had 5.
Yeah, 5 and 5. So yeah, I was my board allowed me to travel a lot last year for my sabbatical. So I came home for 5 weeks of 5 projects. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So Eric, you've dabbled in virtual choirs now that we are all under lockdown, and
yeah,
you're working on another virtual choir thing. And what do you think about virtual choirs? Because around the internets, at least in my circles, it seems to be a hotter topic than I would think.
Can you hear me? Because I just changed my mic. Okay. So there are many of my friends who have a very strong opinion about virtual choirs, and they say it's not a choir. And, I won't do it because I'm a purist and it's not a choir. And my response to that is, stop. Like, don't be a little bitch about it, because it gets me so upset, because this is not about you. This isn't about your purism. This is about your singers needing some community. And your singers needed to do something that's musical. And some singers hate it. Some singers, like, they don't want to hear the sound of their voice alone. When they'll do a recording and they'll mess it up, and they'll just beat themselves up because they're all perfectionists. And they'll just have a horrible time by themselves, and they won't think about the end result. And I can't tell you how many singers in making this last video, with 64 of them. I mean, I didn't do any of the editing, thank God for Kylie and Michael, but I heard a lot of pushback from singers that are like, I don't want to do this, I'm not interested, blah, blah, blah. And that's totally fine. You don't have to do it. But I mean, the whole point of a choir is that everyone supports each other. And normally you do it in the moment when you're in rehearsal together and you're all next to each other. But right. to do it alone is really isolating. I think psychologically it's a really difficult thing for a lot of singers. And I mean, if you're a pro singer and you like the sound of your voice and you think you're pretty, then that's fine. You can make a video and you make a beautiful little moment for yourself. But if you're not, if you just want to be, part of a community and sing, it's a different experience. It depends on, self-confidence. It depends on how pretty you think you are and how pretty you think your voice is. If you don't have super high self-esteem, it's going to suck. It's going to suck. And in the middle of a pandemic, when you're stuck at home and you're stuck in your head all the time, it's not going to be an easy thing. So I
Yeah.
totally loved that I had 64 singers that were willing to do it. And a lot of them wrote to me afterwards and they're like, I'm never going to do this again. I hated it. And then they saw the video and then they saw the video and they're like, I get it now. But the reward is so delayed, right? The difference between submitting your video and hating yourself and then seeing the end result when everyone is together is huge. It's a big differential. It's a big deviation. So
that was a big issue, is them just feeling sort of insecure about sending their material out to you. Not so much
yeah,
the purist issue of people saying this isn't really, making music together as a choir. Like that problem wasn't as like prevalent for you.
no, I mean, I see. As soon as the pandemic happened, and people were starting to do this, I saw. I mean, how many conductors do I know, and how many of them are that are tolerated enough to put in my Facebook feed? I mean, a lot of them were just like, I'm not going to do one. Virtual choir is not choir. Yarda yarda yarda. I mean, fine.
Yeah,
but your singers want to do something. Like, I mean, then get together and have a Zoom party every Sunday. That's what we do. We do an Esoterics happy hour. None of us sings, but I mean, it's just to talk about how we're doing. And then I'm doing this sight singing class with 2 other nights a week. And that's also like I have to deal with people's self-worth. Like, do I sing well enough? And there's this other thing about like when someone submits a video for virtual choir, like they're worried that the conductor is going to hear it and kick them out of the choir.
Wow.
Right? Like people, I mean, there's this whole article that's going around about mourning the loss of choral music. And it's a big deal in this article. Like the person is freaking out about like losing her place in the choir because someone will hear her and judge her so harshly that she can't be self-sufficient as a singer. And I mean, maybe you think the esoterics, all of them are self-sufficient, but they're not. And I don't expect them to be either. I expect us to be better as a whole than any one part. And I've never been a huge fan of professional choruses where everyone is self-sufficient. I'm much more interested in including everybody that works hard and having the weak come along with the strong and change roles.
Yeah.
In my experience, and I'm not dissing your choir, Mark. I hope you know that. From my 27 years of experience directing choir is that those that sight read really well perform less well than those that don't sight read. Because the people that don't sight read well internalize the music better and they end up singing it better for an audience. They put it in their body better. And when push comes to shove and you're in a section, the people that sight read well mess up in performance because they've never really gotten out of their head. And
that's hard to let that one go for me.
It's a big blanket statement, but I mean, I have dealt with hundreds of singers with the Esoterics, and my experience in watching them perform is that people that mess up are the best sight readers. And I had this experience in other choirs as well, even in Sweden. Is Margaret home?
Yeah, she's just.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry to interrupt.
I just want to throw in my piece about the virtual choir thing.
Okay. Do it.
People that are watching this live care that I don't quite understand all the virtual choir haters, because this is the very thing that gets our music out to a much wider audience. I mean, the shares we're getting and the exposure to this stuff is it's making it as mainstream as it can be. And, I think people see this stuff we do sometimes as very niche and very, that's just something, the elites do, or like the super specialists do, something that the general public couldn't possibly be interested in. But that is something that I hope we can break out of in the future, as choral music being, I always feel like it's sort of subordinate to like concert music or like traditional classic concert music. And this mentality of keeping it to ourselves or it just is not the way forward. So that's the only thing I wanted to throw in there.
I mean, I say that I would agree with you, except that to be in a really good virtual choir situation, you have to have a microphone, and you have to have a recording device that does a good job, right? And then you have to hire an editor for the video and hire an editor for the audio. And so it's a lot of money. So in Seattle, how many virtual choir videos have there been? And how does that compare to how many choirs there are?
Yeah.
Right? Do you think everybody's doing it? I don't think so. I think a lot of groups are just biding their time and hoping this thing is over soon so they could have some community again. Yeah. And I am in that boat. But I'm teaching myself the software so we can do some more virtual choir stuff, because I want to get people engaged. I don't want to just do, everyone get together on Sunday night and drink.
Yeah.
Drink, show everybody, what are you drinking? That's just misery to me, misery loving company. So I want to do something, but I just, what are the options to get together and try to improv? I've read about Jumulus. Like there's this web platform where people can jam, and the latency is really low, and people can get together, and the lag is very small, so they could actually come closer to what a rehearsal situation is like. But it ain't rehearsal.
Yeah.
So what are the options?
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of withers on the vine.
That's true. There aren't a lot of. I think Seattle Pro Musica did a pretty big one. You guys did one. We've done a few, but I think there's a huge barrier of entry for the virtual choir stuff. You got to have the right software, and to make it is actually quite telling. Even if you have everyone singing to a click track, and I've done a few of these already. Even if they're singing as precisely as they can to a click track, it's still super hard for everyone to agree exactly where they do, so it doesn't sound together. Yeah. So you need to really realign that stuff up. Yeah.
But I mean, my point is, like, what are they going to do otherwise? Pick up a different hobby?
Yeah.
Voice lessons? Over Zoom? Like, I don't know what. So what I decided to do was to teach my ear training class. I do this ear training class that's non-tonal. And so I have like 8 or 9 students that are doing it. It's twice a week, an hour and a half each time. It's like a university class, and it's a game, and you could drink while you do it. And it's great for building musicianship. And a lot of my students at Cornish, a lot of my students when I was at UW, learned these games. And I think it's a really great way to spend time together, because everyone can mute and do the game by themselves. So if you remember your sight singing classes, like if everyone sang at the same time, there's no way you could hear yourself, right? So, but what we do is I play cards with them, and I sing the answers in a delay. So they get a chance to try the answer, and then they know whether they're right or not. But even that's not the same. It's building their skill level, but it's not making music. It's just building literacy. Right. So, but it's the only thing that I could think of doing that would involve a modicum of people. But even that, Esoterics is a chamber choir, and I have 9 in that class. So what is everybody else doing? Like crying in their soup? I don't know. Or just drinking heavily, or like trying to overachieve, like everyone's trying to get the best shape of their lives, or
right,
to bust out of their quarantine with like a rockin' body. I don't know. You're making a new garden, right?
Yeah.
You're completely transforming your lawn. I'm on the 8th floor in a country where I own no land. I can't do that.
So Eric, how do you think this pandemic will change things after we're through this? Are you planning on another concert season? How are you gonna do it? Have you thought about any of that stuff?
Yes, I thought about it. I obviously can't predict anything. I have so because last year was my sabbatical, and because I spent so much time in Brazil, I've really not followed the news. I decided to take a news vacation, and that's why David had to tell me, don't come home from Brazil, don't get on a plane, it's really not safe. So I think it's been really good for my mental health to not follow the news. And I listen to the news here in Brazil because I want to work on my Portuguese, but I also am worried about the quarantine here in Sao Paulo. So and I'm getting to your question, but my it's very hard to predict how things are going to go here. And that will determine when I get to New York, and that'll determine when I get home. So I think that this, getting over this pandemic is going to be several months or years in the making. And I think it's actually going to change people over time, the longer it lasts. So as we very cautiously get back to normal, I think that people are going to not want to gather in groups. I think it's going to affect concert audiences. I think it's going to affect ensembles, but I think ensembles will still occur no matter who sings in them. I think some ensembles will probably fold because they're not going to be able to afford it. But I think it's going to be tough to see, or it's going to be really interesting to see who survives and who doesn't in terms of arts organizations.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see, I'm trying to go through my roster of singers. I know that people are not going to go to rehearsal unless they can wear a mask or unless they can socially distance. And we rehearse in a sanctuary where people can really be spread out, and we could be successful with music if I choose it correctly. Or choose it to be sung like in a wide open space. I foresee live streaming the first few concerts that we do rather than having a live audience.
Yeah,
I think that that's going to happen. And I really hope that by the beginning of next year, we can actually have a concert. I currently am planning to do a concert in October and another in December. We had concerts scheduled for those weekends, but I actually moved all of our 2020 programming to 2021. And what I want to do with the concerts at the end of this year is retrospective stuff. So have the audience or have the singers vote on pieces, and to have them think about singing them 6 feet apart, like having all the singers, like with that kind of spacing, like what kind of pieces would be doable in that kind of.
You're gonna have to require me.
I want them to, yeah. I'm thinking September, but again, everything's changing. Like here, the quarantine ends on May 11th, but the quarantine, like on Friday, I think the governor of São Paulo is going to extend the quarantine. So as things will get pushed out, and I mean, I've had 3 flights canceled in 3 consecutive months. So yeah. I don't know when I'm going to get home. And so what I'm thinking is that we will probably meet on Zoom and do rehearsals like in sectionals for the first few weeks, and then we would eventually meet in person and socially distance. But I mean, I want to do this with the people that are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I could be talking out my ass.
It's really hard to be in the business of giving live performances because we rely so much on it's part of the experience is when audiences gather and experience the art together. And something Gus Denhart, interesting podcast I had with him, he said the audience gets transfixed before any music is made. In fact,
by the space.
By the space, and just that moment where the artists, where the musicians are their attention is captured by the conductor, just that beginning at that moment, everyone's already engaged. And
I mean, how can you not walk into Holy Rosary and not be changed by that space, right? And we sing there all the time. You've been there and recorded us, or St. Joe's, like the huge churches. I mean, I know that people have their baggage with Catholicism, but I mean, when you walk into a space like that, it's an amazing structure, and far before the concerts even happen. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And one thing with live streaming concerts, I mean, I think we're going to have to do the same thing. But I really worry that, and I hate to say this, but it'll get old. The live streaming concert thing, that people will just lose interest in experiencing like to go on their computer and to like listen to a concert. Maybe they won't listen to it the same way, but I worry.
Yeah, but they're doing that with the Met. They're going to listening to opera. Yeah. I mean, people are always looking at screens for television. So, I mean, I know that it'll get old, but that'll just mean that does that mean that people give up on choral music? I don't think so. I think that means that they can't wait for a real concert to happen again.
I hope you're right.
You know, and I think live stream is totally a step above virtual choir.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the musicians are together. So we have to find, I mean, for me, the search is going to be for a repertoire that is surround sound repertoire. And not because I want to surround the audience, but because I want the singers to be far apart. Right? So there's going to be this whole movement, whatever it is, a transitional movement in choral music where we're writing surround sound pieces so that or social distancing pieces. Not that they are for virtual choir, but they're for people that can't stand together.
Yeah.
You know, in sections. So I'm already thinking of that. And luckily, the last few pieces I wrote were for surround sound choir, like the Sing at Yale that I wrote, and I wrote a John Muir piece that was for 3 choirs that surround the audience. So I'm all already in that mindset. I love it. I love the idea of surrounding the audience. So yeah, I'm reading what Christine has written about artists like throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. My entire mission with the Esoterics is that, right? Do something new, challenge your singers, challenge your audience. And this is just another challenge. It's not the end of anything. If it's the end of something, then you didn't have anything to begin with.
Yeah. My concern is that this is at the expense of all this time we put in, all this extra time we put in. Now that we can't perform, we have to create digital content for people to consume. So that takes time and money. And
yeah, but so did concerts.
Yeah, but we could bring in ticket sales to help offset that. And in fact, this kind of ties into something I've been making some noise about, and we'll announce maybe in a bit. But we're trying, I think it would be great if we could be compensated for all these virtual choir videos that we're doing and all the effort that we're putting into them. So I'm going to try to. I've been talking to Josh about restructuring Scribe Music to be a place where we take in subscription money and offer money give artists money for their digital content. But I do think, as we are not allowed to be in concert venues anymore, that we should be careful not to just, throw everything up there for consumption without thinking about how we're going to get compensated. But that's a whole nother bag of worms.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more concerned about the art than the compensation.
Yeah.
So, but I direct a volunteer choir. It's a different story. So I mean, I know that my income is going to suffer during this entire thing, but I'm much more passionate about the art than worried about my income.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that it's going to suck a year from now, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least right now, the way I'm thinking is I'm going to do it. And if I have to do it from Brazil, I'll do it from Brazil. Right. I don't know. It's cheaper to live here anyway.
Are you going to stay there?
Well, I mean, if all I could do is make digital content of my singers, then yes, I will stay here. I don't know.
Eric, there's a way we can make money off of our digital content, and I'm going to show you the way. I'm just going to take time.
Really? Wait, does that have to do with porn? Like what? Mark.
Porn.
Okay. Choral porn.
Yeah.
Corn. CHORN. Corn.
Oh my God.
Please. Trademark.
Eric, I've run out of all the things I want to talk to you about. Is there anything that you wanted to throw in there or talk about before we call it good?
No, I have no agenda. My only agenda was to have fun.
Good.
So, and I made fun of Penny, and I don't know anyone. Is anyone else typing other than Christine and Penny? Hi, you guys. Thanks for typing. Yeah. I'll direct message Penny about the racism in Peanut Gallery. It has to do with peanuts and monkeys. Oh, so, yeah, exactly. So, all right. Is there anything else you want to know?
No, I think that's good. I think we had a good talk, and I think this was fun. And
I miss you, baby. I miss you.
I know. I'm glad to see that you're well over there, living it up.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not living it up. It's not like
those buildings that look like you're living it up. Looks like you're.
Yeah, I mean, my building is smaller than those, and what you saw before I died, the computer died, is Paulista Avenue, which is kind of Brazil's Fifth Avenue, like that Sao Paulo is the largest city in South America, and there are 12 million people here, and they have a shopping district that is basically over there.
Mhm.
Not that I can go there, but
Right.
I have been there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, until the next time I see you face to face, you take care and you stay healthy and don't get crazy.
Okay. Okay. Say hi to Margaret. Give her a kiss.
I'll do. Okay, Eric. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark.